Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Monday, May the 21st, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day, and for the week for that matter. And I have to say, this is my first daily dose of happy for the week because the book is done, and I'm so happy that the book is done. I got it done yesterday, Tom, 3 p.m. Eastern Time.
That's
and
so great. Yeah. You put a lot of time on that.
Oh, yeah, especially this weekend. All Saturday, all Sunday morning, part of Sunday afternoon. It was just, plowing away at it, trying to get it to publish. And I thought it was going to be a lot easier than it was. The paperback was actually easier than the ebook, believe it or not. The paperback, I was able to do that in about 5 minutes. The ebook would have been quick, except I have to say Kindle needs to work on their product called Kindle Create. It really has some really buggy features in it. It kept screwing up the layout. So I had to keep messing with it and finally figured out what the heck was going on. But got through that. Got through it.
So great that you know how to do all that and you have the patience for it.
Actually, all of my experience helped on that because I have a lot of experience as a web developer. I have a lot of experience with software in general, and understanding how to apply it and how to distribute it on mass networks and so forth. How to roll it out to companies. Yeah. So that experience helped me tremendously, and the combination is how I figured out. They had this really strange thing. It was the one thing that held me up more than anything else. When I was loading the pages in, now we have pictures of each of the contributors in the book, and we also have a few other pictures for beginning of section headings and so forth. And when I loaded it into their Kindle Create system, all the pictures shrunk down to these little teeny tiny thumbnails. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what the heck is that all about? And I couldn't figure out a way to make it work. I would make changes on my original document, and they would all stay the same. It's like, what the heck's going on? I finally figured it out. Kindle's programmers made a really bad call. What they did was they instruct everybody to build your book to the final trim size. In other words, what's the size of the book? In our case, it's a 6-inch by 9-inch book. And there are different trim sizes. I mean, you can do whatever size book you want, but they tell you set up your document to that trim size. Well, they never told the programmers that, because what the programmers did is they decided that when you want to take a page that has a photo on it, you take the page, and if the photo is like half of the width of the page, then you shrink it down to half size. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Except for one little glitch. They automatically assume that all pages are 8.5 by 11. Oh, wow. So they told you to make a smaller book, but the photo reduces based on the size of an 8.5 by 11. Well, if you've got like a 4-inch photo on a 6-inch page, 4 inches, that's less than 50% of an 8.5 by 11 page. You think you're shrinking it down to like 60, 70%. It's shrinking it down to 30% or 40% or something like that. It's like, how are you supposed to figure that out? Well, I finally figured it out just by, deductive and inductive logic more than anything else. But what a crazy little glitch that was.
You must have incredible inductive logic skills. That's
a lot of practice and a little intuition too.
Yeah, right.
I can't say 100% for sure.
Natural proclivity for it, right?
Well, I can't say 100% for sure because I still haven't totally figured this connection out, but I think I was getting some inner being messages on that saying, no, do this.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, you were tuning in.
Yeah, I was definitely tuned in and trying to avoid overheating. That was the word I was looking for. Right, I didn't want to overheat.
Yeah, that's where the real crux comes with me in computers. Am I going to get frustrated at what point?
I think a lot of people
am I going to throw my hands up and say,
right,
if I don't get divine intervention here, I'm going to go live in a little cabin in the mountains and never turn on one of these things again. I'm going to get shotgun and take this thing out back.
Well, I don't know. That's a pretty severe price to pay for being a computer. I mean, gee, lookers. But yeah, no, I understand what you mean.
Yeah, but that's how frustrated some of us old timers feel.
Oh yeah, well, I don't think it's just old timers. I think that younger people they expect that they're not allowed to be, frustrated by computers, so they can't admit it to their friends. But I bet you they do get frustrated because some of the stuff that gets done by computer programmers, particularly at the operating system level, are just they're head scratchers.
Yeah, but I guess must be so many people solving problems constantly. I know when I've done a lot of work like creating my website, I spent a lot of time solving problems, and sometimes it would
Hmm.
take 3 weeks to get over
Oh yeah.
something that you probably would have handled probably within 5 minutes.
Well,
Take
not necessarily.
me and my friend 3 weeks to try to talking back and forth to the company and finally like figuring it out. And it's like, oh gosh. Anyway.
But the good news
Well,
is it's published. I mean, I had such a feeling of relief when I
yeah.
finally was able to submit it and know that Amazon was processing. And then they sent me a note that's saying, well, we'll have an answer for you in 72 hours. I said, oh, great, fine. And then an hour later, oh, your book is published. It's like, ooh, okay, well, that's not so bad. That's a quick 72 hours.
Yeah. Wow. That's a good sign.
So
Wow. I
that was
can't
my
believe.
weekend. That was my entire weekend. That plus,
Wow.
once that was done, Louise and I went out and had a little bit of a nice time. But beyond that, that was pretty much my weekend. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was wonderful. It rained here a bunch. We had one of these torrential springtime downpours that just was
Ah,
massive amounts of water in the streets and so much hail that it was lined up all along the edge of the road of these great big white, banks of hail.
right.
And this is something we've been getting in recent years. Didn't used to get it so much in Colorado, but I guess it's happened here for quite a long time. It was so good to see the water. I mean,
Well,
so much water.
you've been rain making for so long now in terms of trying to get rain to show up that I imagine you were pretty delighted to see it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I really wanted a lot of snow, but I'll take the rain. I'll take anything. I just love to see everything greening up now. We've got massive amount of green, and so I got to get out in it a bunch this weekend and enjoy it. And although it was overcast most of the time and got quite cool, it had been in the 80s and it went back into the 40s. So
Wow. Yeah.
yeah. But I had a great time hanging out with my friend and
That's
going out
terrific.
with a number of people for coffee and breakfast,
Excellent.
and it was great.
Sounds great. Outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting
So,
a new week started. People are back to their daily jobs and the things that they do for a living and so forth. And we're hoping everybody starts off the week with that getting into alignment feeling. Getting into alignment, of course, is where you get yourself into that good feeling place. And it's really important, particularly with a job, to get there. Because when you get there before you go to work, the work goes so much easier, you know? I
yeah.
noticed that with the book. I mean, I deliberately got myself into heavy duty alignment. I got myself feeling really, really good before I started doing anything on Saturday. And I knew Saturday, I was actually trying to get the whole thing done on Saturday. And I was just
Uh-huh.
going to plow right through it. And I did my mirror exercises. I did various kinds of pivoting exercises and positive aspect exercises, all kinds of stuff, just to get myself into a really positive space. And I just dove into it. And even though
Wow.
I ran into problems that, like you said, probably most people would have been so frustrated they would have been throwing up their hands, that positive burst that I gave myself helped me to plow through some stuff pretty quickly. That, like you said, probably would have taken a lot of people a lot more time, but I was able to zoom through it. So it
Yeah,
really
and
does
the way
pay
you're
off.
describing it, you can tell you were happy. You can tell you were feeling good.
I was
And
and
of
am.
course, you were at the end of your project. That probably helped too.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But
And
yeah, that's our topic for today is knowing when it's the right moment to take action.
it's important. You have to know when that is. It's not what we're used to doing. I mean, we're all used to. Well, it depends what our mental makeup is. If for those of us who are like the type A personalities, or the nose to the grindstone types or whatever, we just dive right in, right? We just go at it because that's what you have to
Right.
do. You have to go at it. And the problem that we don't realize is that when we do that, it very often ends up backfiring on us, and our days become harder, and our work becomes harder and more frustrating, and bad things happen, and so forth.
It's
So,
so key. It's so key to so many things that we do, all of
yeah,
us, like here we are Monday morning talking to people about going to work. And yeah, is your work coming from a place of inspiration? Is it coming from a place that it really feels generally fun to be doing what you're doing, or is it pretty much a grind? And sometimes it's somewhere in between there, where some of it
right.
feels good and some's not so good. But the things that we're looking at with law of attraction is how can you leverage the law of attraction to work in your favor so that when you take action, it's really a very pleasurable thing to do, but that action comes after you've had this great pleasure of anticipating, of longing, of having this great desire that I want to do something. And it's like the desire you have when you're a little kid. When we were kids, if we can remember that, that desire would come and it would be exciting, and then you would want to fulfill it, but it was the excitement that mattered the most. It was that feeling of, I'm so looking forward to creating this thing, or to, doing this thing, but it's the anticipation of it. It's kind of counterintuitive, again, as we've said many times, counterintuitive to understand, well, how could I get to that place where I'm really that inspired? I just see that I have this thing I want to do, but I just want to get going on it. I just want to get it done now.
And since we're going to be defining or describing inspired action quite a bit, we should define it. We should make it clear what inspired action is. So you want to take a shot at it? What's inspired action? How would you define it?
Well, in a way, I was trying to just go in that direction, which is, inspired action to me is when I feel like I'm on the leading edge of my excitement for that day or that moment or that week, or that project, that relationship, whatever it is that I'm involved in that I want to see things take place. Is it coming out of need, trying to fulfill a need, or is it coming out of fulfilling a longing, a desire, an excitement, something that is stimulating, something that feels like this is worth living for? And, that it feels fantastic to anticipate it. And then the action ends up showing up out of that anticipation. So the action sort of reveals itself to us because, so many things line up about this thing that we want to have happen, that we're excited in the thrill of the project, in the thrill of the relationship. We decide to go out to eat rather than we go out to eat because we're hungry and it's getting late and let's go, instead of let's go because we really want to go to that new, Argentinian restaurant, and try their fantastic this or that, and that's different than just acting out of need.
Yeah. I mean, the way I like to distinguish regular action from inspired action is, inspired action is the action I take after I have gotten myself into the good feeling place.
Yes.
The place where I'm feeling positive, what they call in alignment, good high vibration, whatever phrase you want to use to describe it. But I want to make sure I don't take any actions until I'm in that place, because once I'm feeling good about whatever it is that's going on that day, then any ideas that come to me, any thoughts that come, any suggestions that come, from friends, anything like that tends much more often to be very productive, very successful, very having happy results. It tends to be the action that produces by far the better kinds of results that I'm looking for. And the inspired part is the part where I got the idea not from sitting down and thinking hard about it, but from feeling good and having ideas come to me. That's a difference I'm beginning to really appreciate. That when I'm feeling good, ideas just kind of come to me. When I'm trying to think about something and I'm thinking hard about it, and I got that really determined look on my face and so forth. That's where any ideas coming they're not inspired. They're just I'm going to force them out of my brain if I have to.
Yeah. You're sort of goosing the whole thing with
goosing it. Yeah, that's a good way to
expectation of rather than it being truly an inspired thing. That's
and those goosed ideas are bad. I mean, it's amazing how bad they are and how often they work out to my disadvantage. It's a very, very, very high percentage.
Yeah. They're really not inspired. They're coming from your logic, right? From, I should do this, or this is probably the way I'll accomplish this, is if I just do this and this and this. And you make a list of things to do, but you get started on it. And maybe there is that anticipation in the beginning and you're hopeful, but you jumped into action too soon.
Yeah.
And I know Abraham says this is not ever about what action to take. It's about when to take the action. as what, why this podcast is called what it's called.
Oh, yeah.
When's the right moment to take action? It's not about what action to take.
Which is wild, because you don't really expect the timing of it to be vitally important, and yet it is.
Right.
The timing, and it's not just timing in terms of what time is it. It's timing in terms of where am I at, where am I at in my feeling about my existence, and about how I'm feeling about my life, and how I feel about what's going on right now, and so forth. That's the timing part of it.
Yeah, and one way to explain that is that when we want something, we automatically, it goes into our vortex. It goes into this reservoir of infinite possibility that is created somehow in this alternate reality. Like according to the way it's described by Abraham, for example, when you want something, it's immediately created in this quantum place. And then the whole thing is, can you get to the place of what they call step 3? Is let it in. You've already asked for it. Right. You've asked for it by knowing what you don't want, and then you automatically know what you do want, or you conjured up what you did want. You said to yourself, I know what I want. I want the house up there on that street that's got the 4 bedrooms and the 3 bathrooms, and that's the one I want because I love that view up there. And you see all the things you want, but then how do you get to the place where it's the right time to take action on it?
It's funny, too, to watch Esther Hicks as she's receiving messages from Abraham and voicing it on stage at one of the workshops. Because when she talks about the vortex, she always uses that same motion, right? She's like pointing down kind of to the right and moving her hand in a circle. And you can almost imagine, you can imagine like there's a barrel of water there, and she's stirring this barrel of water. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And one way to explain it is that barrel of water, that vortex of where these things are created already by infinite, love, infinite wisdom, infinite power. Then the thing is that the reason waiting for right action is so important is because there's so much in that vortex. And if we've got something that we want to see come about in our lives, there are many, many things in that vortex that can bring us great feelings of satisfaction and fulfillment and completion and, just loving the way the action unfolds, that we'll get to that place when we have waited or anticipated in the way that we're really aligned. Like you were saying, you got an alignment on Saturday before you really dove into the book project. You did all these different things to get yourself into this really great feeling place. And that then lets what's in the vortex, everything that's vibrating with those good feelings begins to add itself to your project or to the thing you want to see happen, rather than you're jumping in too soon and you're not really feeling that good about it. You just think, I need to do action. I need to do action. I need to do action. Instead of, I need to get aligned. I need to get aligned. I need to get aligned. I want to be aligned. I want to feel really a lot of desire, a lot of anticipation of this thing, and then take action that comes from inspiration that just flows toward us because we're feeling like this is I did the right preparation, or I waited long enough. I anticipated this thing in the right way that now it can come to me.
So how do you know how much is enough? What's long enough?
For me,
if you're trying to explain it to somebody.
Yeah, for me, it's can I truly answer authentically to myself that I feel inspired about this? Can I truly feel that I feel a feeling first that's saying now's the right time? Like did I give it time to incubate? I guess that's what it comes down to. Like the same thing that if you planted a seed of corn in the ground and then 4 days later you're out there digging in the ground to try to find where's the sprout, where's it, is it, it's not coming up, and you really needed to wait 2 weeks, not 4 days. So it's the patience to let something incubate until it's ready to sprout.
You sound like some of our gardening customers, actually. Yeah. Why isn't this garden all full and lush right now? Well, you got to give it a chance to grow.
but we can understand that with seeds, but it's truly the way that all of life works. I believe it's huge for me to learn this lesson, because I've done so many projects that turn into just a nightmare and a struggle that at first looked like they were going to be fun, but by the time I made this elaborate timeline and started to just do things out of logic that said now's the time I should begin step one, it's like the inspiration eventually is gone, and I'm not feeling enthralled with the project and excited and really looking forward to this delicious action. Instead, the action becomes a burden and the project loses inspiration for me. And I had that happen so many times that it was frustrating as hell. I said, why isn't it just fun to create something that I want to create? And why do I turn it into such a project,
Yeah. Why do you think that happens? I mean,
well, because I jump into action too soon. Because
okay.
That's why I put when I was describing today's podcast, I said there's this thing in our culture that says, I mean, if you act, that's the most noble thing you can do. What are you doing sitting on your butt when you could be taking action? You say you want something, go get it done. And there's that thought out there. And I found that I used to just really believe in that, and kind of just think that that's really all that it comes down to. I've just got to go do it and it'll happen. And in a way, that's the opposite of how inspired things get done. Inspired things, if we want to be a creative person who brings out our deepest, most wonderful longings and that childlike anticipation of something awesome happening, we've got to give it time to incubate. And then all these different things start showing up. And then we get signs from here, we get signs from there, we get signs from here, we get signs from there. Now's the time to take action. But if we jump in just because we get a little impulse, you can get an impulse really quickly and then say, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Now I know. But that's not necessarily got the staying power that you think it has. And you start taking action on it. But something that incubates a long time until you get a sign from here, you get a sign from there, you get a sign from here, that this thing is really real. I'm going to take action on this thing.
Well, I tell you, I have to take a little inspired action right now, because while we were talking about the fact that the book is published, I forgot to mention that we've been promising all along that our listeners are going to have the opportunity to get a free copy of the ebook once it's published. And that is going to happen starting this Friday, May 25th. We're going to be doing this as a 4-day thing. During a 4-day period, our listeners will be able to get a free copy of the ebook. And the way to do it will be to go to the homepage at loatoday.net, where you will see, starting Friday, May 25th, and throughout the Memorial Day weekend, you will see a picture of the cover of the book, which is entitled Your Daily Dose of Happy, Real Success Stories of the Law of Attraction. And it has a nice picture of sunflowers on it. You'll be able to click on that. It'll take you right to the page on Amazon where you can order the free ebook. So we are delivering on our promise that we've been making for how many weeks now? How many months have we been making this promise? But it's been a while.
You started in January, right?
Yeah.
No, maybe before that.
Well, the project started in January. I think I started making the promise around February, but it doesn't matter. It's been a long time. We've been making it for a long time, and we're now going to deliver on that promise. Oh, and there's also going to be a second thing. If for those people who don't take advantage of it during the weekend, anybody actually is going to be able to do this. For those who decide that they want to order a copy of the paperback and buy a paperback, you will also be able to get a free copy of the ebook. So there are actually going to be two ways to get it. One is through the special offer over the Memorial Day weekend, Friday the 25th through May the 28th. And then even thereafter, you can still get a free copy just by buying a copy of the paperback. So two ways to do it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
All right.
Now tell us how you incubated the idea of that book. Did you incubate it and wait until you felt that it was the right time to begin taking action?
Oh, it was very inspired. The whole thing was inspired, and it was inspired by the podcast. I mean, when you and Cindy and Wendy came on board, it was at a time when, for the first time in the history of the podcast, we were getting this huge surge in interest over the previous few months. You guys came on in the end of November 2017. And from I think it was September through November, we'd had this huge increase in number of listeners and even more importantly, number of episodes listened to.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, for November, we had more plays than we'd had for all of the rest of the previous 25, or for the rest of the previous 5 years of podcasts combined. So we had this big surge, and that's what led me to bring you and Cindy and Wendy on. And within days, well, first of all, you guys came on real fast. I mean, I reached out to you guys on a Sunday, and you were all signed up by a Tuesday. So it was a very fast thing, and really showed how strong the law of attraction is, because I had this big, powerful desire to get the thing expanded. At that point, we were doing once a week, and I wanted to do it daily, and I wanted to have lots of co-hosts and put it out there, and bam, you guys show up instantly. It was so quick. I mean, literally, Tom, I think I only reached out to like 8 people on that loacoaches.com website. That's where I just went to randomly. The top 8 people, you 3 were among those top 8. I just contacted you guys just as a test to see what would happen. I mean, I wasn't really anticipating getting all my coaches on it. And boom, you guys all get back, yeah, let's do this. So that was the first part.
Quite an opportunity.
Well, yeah, it was, yeah. But nevertheless, it happened really quickly. And then within days of that, both Cindy and Wendy told me about these book projects they'd been involved with. They were multi-author projects. I think Wendy had been involved in 2 of them, Cindy in 1, and in all cases they'd been really long. They'd taken well over a year to accomplish. But what was cool about the idea is all of the authors who contribute to these books would get together and do a big promotion at the launch all together, so you get this nice big push to get up in the rankings and show up on Amazon or any other lists that are out there that pay attention to this kind of thing. I thought that was a really clever idea. I wonder what we could do with that. And I was already feeling really good about the podcast because you guys had come on and we got this big surge of interest and so forth. So I was in a good feeling place anyway. And then this comes along, and I mean, instantly I thought, well, shoot, is there a way we can come up with a book that would promote the podcast and take advantage of this huge marketing effect? I thought that was really cool. And within days, maybe even hours, I can't remember exactly how long it was, I got the idea, well, why not do a book of manifestation stories? I mean, that's something that anybody would find interesting. People are always interested in, well, how do you know this stuff works, right? What's the evidence? Well, wouldn't it be great to have a book that was just full of those manifestation stories? So that was the big inspiration that came. And as soon as I got that inspiration, I wanted to do something that I had never done in the past. I wanted to just go do it. In the past,
just
I would
do
have wanted
action.
to just take action.
You wanted to do action.
That was it.
But you felt a lot of alignment.
I felt a ton of alignment, but there's also something else I want to throw in. In the past, I would have wanted to sit down and stop myself and calm down and let's plan this thing carefully, and thereby kill it. I didn't know I was killing it, but that's what my pattern would have been. This is the first time, and Joel has made mention of this many times, this is the first time I just, said, to heck with all that, let's go. I feel inspired. Let's make this thing happen. And within 2 weeks, I had kind of felt out from you guys, okay, what do you think? Is this something we should do? Yeah, I was getting some good feedback. So I said, well, all right, let's just do this. I said, okay, I wonder how many stories we can all write. Well, let's see, there are 6 of us, 5 of you and me, that's 6 of us. How many stories can we write? We can probably write 1 each. 6, that's kind of a short book. How can we expand this? And I said, oh, wait a minute. I found these great coaches to be my co-hosts. I wonder how many more coaches I could find who could also contribute to the book. In fact, we could even help promote their varying coaching services in addition to promoting the podcast, so it would be a win-win situation. And so I wrote this letter right there on the spot on that day and just started finding people online and sending it to them. And I got all this feedback. Oh, what a great idea. I'd love to be a part of that. I'm thinking, geez, I wonder how many we can get. Maybe we can get 50 of them. That's it. We'll go for 50. I don't know how the heck we're going to do this book, but we're going to get 50. And we got 39 people contributing. I couldn't believe it. But it was all inspired action. The whole thing was heavily inspired.
Well, that's interesting, because it's sort of a little bit different than what I was describing in a certain way, because you took action so quickly and you took massive action. And there's a lot of people that say, you really want to get something done, just take massive action, throw as much stuff against the wall as quickly as you can. And in whatever sticks, you'll get your project done. And
well, it wasn't just massive action. If I had just taken massive action without getting that feeling going along with it, well, first of all, I probably would have had, some sort of stress failure. So I would have just, collapsed in a hospital bed or something. But secondly, that energy that you get from being in alignment,
Yeah.
That's like,
Yeah.
it wasn't even about trying to throw stuff up against the wall. It was like, I can hardly wait to take action. I am so inspired. I am so excited. I am so energized by this thing. That was the part that really caught my attention more than anything else.
I would tend to think that this was a response, and it kind of sounds like it is. You can confirm this or not, to all the effort you've been putting into the podcast for so long and wanting it and having this longing for a long time for it to turn into something really wonderful and expansive and really for it to grow. And that this was in a lot of ways fueled by this long-term longing, right? For it to be more out in the public eye, more available to people.
Well,
Is that
yeah.
true?
It's definitely true. I think the difference maker is that unlike in the past where my longing might have been a lack-based longing, there was nothing lack-based about it.
Yeah, yeah.
After you start paying it, that distinction is an important distinction. Abraham brings it up. And after you paid attention to that distinction for quite some time, which end of the stick do you have? Do you have the lack end or do you have the thing
Yeah.
end? And as I've been paying attention to that, I've come to appreciate that there is a very different visceral feeling one from the other. That the lack side of it there's a big, strong longing attached to it. There's a need to it. There's like a hunger and a craving, but it's a very uncomfortable kind.
Yes.
And it's a very what
needy.
How do you describe it? It's needy. Yeah, it's like, oh God, I gotta hang out with my fingernails kind of a feeling. Whereas the kind of feeling I was experiencing at the time that this book was being germinated was, whoa, the possibilities are so great. I mean, this is an exciting concept. Who knows where this could go? But it was a completely different feeling. Completely different. Had no lack to it at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were getting inclinations and inspirations coming from all different sides that were telling you yes, yes, yes. So you were getting a giant yes. And I think that's
gelling. That gelling is a key
when
word.
To take action.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was gelling together in me,
Mm-hmm.
not just in my mind, but in me. It was like, oh geez, how do you explain this? Imagine this is just metaphorical. Imagine that there are little pieces of you spread all over the place. Because you have all these different interests everywhere, and these sort of conflicting things going on in your life. I want this, but on the other hand, I want that. They don't really play nicely together. You got all this stuff, and then all of a sudden, all of those pieces just come right back to you and form your complete personhood again. That's what it felt like. It felt like all those pieces were coming back in, and not slowly either. It was a little bit of a shock. It was like slam back into itself.
Yeah.
It's like I was snapping back into who I was. Very, very interesting feeling. And I can't say I've ever felt that. Yeah. Oh, totally about alignment. Alignment was huge.
You just felt so compelled that then the action just seemed so obvious, right?
Yeah. Well, the action, obvious would have been an understatement. There was really only one possibility: take this action. There wasn't even the option between take the action or not take the action. It was just take the action. There was no second possibility.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good explanation of when it's the right moment to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'd say so.
Filled with the knowing and the inspiration that yes, this is the right thing to do, and this is the right time to do it, and this is the way I'm going to do it. Yeah.
The only thing I hope, and I'm not sure if it's true, is I hope that what's coming across is not just the mental structure of it, but how the feeling is really different. And I don't know if I'm conveying what it felt like. I'm not sure if there's any way to convey that. There may not be.
Well, I think your enthusiasm is hard. Your enthusiasm is hard to miss.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Clearly, when you describe it, and the way you've always described it, has been with this sense of great inspiration and excitement that this is an awesome thing to offer people, and it's a wonderful way to let people know the podcast exists. And so you're filled with that sense of right timing, in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. This is the time to do this action, and I'm going to call so and so, and I'm going to check this out, and I'm, then all those pieces, you just knew to do them. And I imagine there's been times since that it's felt more of a struggle from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, you don't maintain that high level at all times, but the good part was it was high enough and it was strong enough that even when times came where, I mean, like you said, there's some days where I don't really want to work on the book today. I just don't have it in me to do it. Even on those days, it's not like I felt any souring. There was no sour taste I was just tired. That's all. I just needed a break.
Yeah. But it wasn't like the whole project had become, like, oh God, I wish I'd never taken this on.
No, not at all. It wasn't that at all. It was always still a very sweet, very positive, very good feeling flavor, if you will. But in the past, I've had ideas that were not so inspired. That were not inspired at all. They were just me coming up with the idea and trying to act on it. And when you get tired in those situations, it's an entirely different feeling. Everything starts to. There's like a flavor that tastes bad. That's why I use the word sour. It just the whole project has a really bad taste to it after a while, just because it doesn't have the right energy behind it.
Yeah, you jumped into action too soon is often the reason. And like I was looking at this thing from Abraham where they were saying, in their opinion, 95% of things are already constructed before you're, in this quantum reality. It's like it's pretty much all fleshed out before the person actually gets the inspiration to act. But what most people do is they act when there's only 5% of feeling that it's time to act. As soon as they get the impulse, they think, "Oh, I need to start doing action." And they said, and then some people who have listened to Abraham, and they'll wait till they've got 30 or 40% of a feeling that now's time to go, but then they just can't stand waiting, so they jump into action. And what they're saying is, if you would wait till 95% of the thing was really ripe and ready, it's like waiting for a fruit to ripen on the tree. If you eat that fruit too soon, it's just not going to taste good. But if you wait and wait and wait and let it sit on the vine to just the right moment, if the raccoons don't get it before you do, you get this really delicious apple or these really great cherries or berries, because you waited just the right amount of time. And that's an interesting thing about action. And I find that in creating my coaching business over the last 4 years. I started coaching before that, but just actually making the business, it's been like right now I'm creating a group coaching, model that I'm going to be fleshing out, how I'm going to do group coaching. And we're forming mastermind groups in order to create this group coaching. I'm doing it through this program online. And I feel like I named my group the LOA group because most of the people involved in creating group coaching for their own businesses are not coming from an LOA background. They're not looking at it through law of attraction. And I want to look at it through this very principle of when's the right time to do what on creating this group coaching business, because I just have, like I said, I've really tripped over assuming that action comes first instead of inspiration.
Well, I think a lot of us have, yeah. And this idea, I had not heard Abraham talk about waiting for fruition, so to speak, fruition.
Right.
Waiting for it to come together. And I'm a little surprised to hear them say that. I'm not disagreeing with them. I'm simply saying that I'm not sure it's the best way to look at the situation. Let me explain why. Because the reason I think I'm surprised to hear them say that is on the topic of patience, of being patient in terms of waiting for your manifestation to show up. They actually speak against that. They say we aren't really in favor of patience. So here they are advocating a form of patience, that's what makes it sound kind of strange to me.
Yeah,
I think what's actually going on here is what they're calling waiting, being patient, waiting for the full amount of enthusiasm to show up is really a way of saying get yourself into the good feeling place first.
Yeah.
Because when you're having to wait, when you only have the 5% inspiration, like you were describing, as opposed to the 95%, when you only have that 5% energy level, it just means you haven't gotten yourself into the good feeling place. You've gotten yourself into a little bit of a good feeling place, and that's not enough. So what you really need to do is not be patient, not wait for it to show up. You have to actually take, and this is the kind of action that is good to take. You have to take whatever steps it takes in order to get yourself to feel better.
Well,
even if
okay.
it's not,
Yeah.
even if it's not about the particular project itself. I mean, if it's just, if you're looking at your favorite things that you love to do, if you love to go take a walk, you go take a walk. If you love to pet your cat, you you pet your cat. If you like to have a salami sandwich, you have a salami sandwich. You do the things that help you feel better and get yourself feeling better and better and better and better. And then you take a look at the idea and see if it really still feels good. Because if it does, it kind of slams into you at that point. You don't have to wait anymore.
Well, yes, I guess I agree with that, but I also feel like if I've then sit down and I'm looking into the project again, it's like, do I truly feel inspired about this project? I mean, I might be feeling good within myself, but I don't know. I have this thing of kind of like just it really is similar to being a farmer and waiting for the right time to plant the seed and the right time to harvest the crop and the waiting for the seed to germinate and start to sprout. Like I look at the whole project and I feel whether or not I'm, this is the right timing. Now it's really cool to hear your story of the book because there wasn't any question about right timing because the inspiration seemed to just be so full on from early on. But that's why I was asking, how long that thing had been incubating within you. But
Well,
I
I
think
guess in
we
one
all
sense
approach
had been
action in a different way too,
I guess it had been incubating in me for 5 years. That's how long
Yes.
I've been doing the podcast,
Right.
getting nowhere.
Right.
So I guess in that sense, it had been incubating for a long time. And in that sense, I was being patient, I guess. Actually, I didn't think of it as being patient. Well, I mean, from the get-go, from the very first time I did the first podcast with my wife on our on our 13th wedding anniversary, that was the day of the first podcast. From that point on, I was doing it just because I loved it. Just because it was therapeutic, it felt good. I got a high out of it every time I did it, particularly if I was interviewing or talking with somebody who was fun to talk with. And I was getting stuff out of it, and we're kind of boosting each other's energy levels by getting excited and so forth. That, for me, was what made the podcast worthwhile. So I didn't really have, I mean, I had, sure, like anybody else, I had kind of thought of the podcast a little bit like it was a business at times, but that wasn't my predominant thought. My predominant thought wasn't about, well, how do I turn this into something more successful? What marketing ideas can I come up with to really build the thing up? That wasn't really part of it. For me, it was just, I like doing this. I like doing this. I like doing it a lot. And I just want to keep doing it. I don't care if I never get a listener. I mean, I did. I hoped I'd get lots of listeners. But that wasn't my primary thing. My primary thing was I like doing this. And that's why I think I say it's getting into the high-flying place first. It took me a while. I mean, I was enjoying it, but I wasn't really in that high-flying place for the first few years. I was in a good place. I was in a place where, it overall felt pretty good. But I wasn't in that really high, joyful place. That took a few years before I got there. So, I mean, how do you want to look at that? We could look at that as being patient. I planted the seed back when I first started, and I was waiting for it to grow. That's one way to look at it, and that's a legitimate way to look at it. The way I was looking at it was, I hadn't even thought about it as planting a seed. I was just looking to feel good. The more, because I knew the better I felt, good things were going to happen. I didn't know what they were going to be. So, whether you look at it as putting a seed in the ground and letting it germinate and letting it sprout, or just getting into a good feeling place. You can look at it, whichever metaphor works for you. The bottom line is you just don't take the action until you feel that huge surge that goes on. Otherwise, when I say take the action, I mean take the action to do some kind of a marketing project or something like that to really boost the business, because that's not the primary function. The primary function is getting happy first, in my view.
That's great.
Yeah.
I mean, if I look at, the weeks ahead of me, I've got, over the next 10 weeks, say I'm going to create this whole coaching program, this group coaching program. And it's going to involve a lot of stuff, a lot of creating all the modules, coming up with the inspiration for each of the modules and the overall, branding of what the message is going to be. And then all the technical aspects of forming every bit of that, and then the marketing, all the marketing aspects. And from my old way of thinking, that could turn into a quote unquote project pretty quickly, and that project could feel like a burden. It could feel like this is a lot I'm taking on, and instead, like the way you're describing it, feel the real inspiration of, well, why do I want to do it? What is it that I'm enthralled with? Why is this a cool thing for me? Why am I turning in this direction and getting involved in this whole online creation with all these other people who are trying to create their own courses and forming a mastermind group? And to me, the whole thing is The mastermind group, for example, is to find that place that you're talking about, that place of inspiration, and then to talk with these other members in the group to sort of help each of us say, are you inspired by the thing that you're creating? Or are you doing it just because, well, if I do these 10 steps, then I'll have the money I want. Or if I do these 10 steps, my business will be up and running. Whereas, are you inspired by your business? Do you love the idea that you have? Do you love the modules you're going to create? Do you think it's going to be awesome to be delivering this to people? To me, that's what I have to work on. And for me to take the burden out of something it's a huge thing for me to feel the kind of inspiration you're describing is so precious to me. It's such a rare commodity. When I created 6 local dances here in Boulder that were really awesome. These freestyle conscious dancing, and then I kept asking myself, as I created that over a period of 3 months, I just kept asking myself, am I inspired by this? Am I inspired by that? And I wouldn't create it like a playlist or go out and find venues or create the marketing until I felt I want to do this. This is great. I love this.
I saw somebody online, I think it was on that Quora.com website where people post a question and anybody can answer it.
Mm-hmm.
And the question somebody asked was, how do you start a podcast?
Mm-hmm.
And my answer, first of all, there was somebody else who had answered, who had given a long answer about all the steps you have to do, and you have to get your equipment involved, and how are you going to record it, and how are you going to save it, where are you going to publish it, how are you going to market it, all that kind of stuff. And he had given this really long, detailed thing about how to do it. My post was about 3 sentences long, and the first sentence is, just do it. Don't try to figure it all out. Don't try to do all that stuff. You'll spend weeks and months on that. Try doing one, even if you can't publish it. Just try doing one to see if you like the darn thing.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what kills.
Have fun with it, right?
Yeah, I think that's what kills projects from the beginning. The fact that we don't actually take the time to ask ourselves, do I love doing this?
Yes.
And if we're not really sure, trying it and seeing, do I love doing it? So, I mean, even if I knew nothing about how to do a podcast, and I've learned a lot, but if I was at the beginning and I'd never done it before, from what I now know, even if I didn't have any software to do it with, even if it was just me and a friend and we were just going to pretend we were going to hold pencils as if they were microphones and pretend doing a podcast, I would do that first just to see if I like it. Because if I like it, then any action I'm taking is inspired. If I don't like it, it's time to look around for a different idea and not waste my time trying to figure out how to set the darn podcast up. We spend so much time spinning our wheels, setting things up without taking the time to figure out, do I really like this? Right. Would I really enjoy doing this? Because if you enjoy doing it, then any kind of task you take on to make it happen is easy. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's exciting. Yeah. Keeps you going. You're constantly energized. But if you're setting it up because, well, I think I might make some money on it, or I might make a successful business out of it, but I don't really have the feeling that goes along with that, you're just setting yourself up for failure. And I know, because I set myself for failure many times throughout my life. Yeah. Many times. Yeah. And it always led to failure. Always. Even the times when I thought I was succeeding, it still led to failure.
That's wild. Yeah, because you just really, truly didn't have the inspiration behind it, right?
That's right.
I mean, it just really wasn't the right time to be doing that thing. And maybe if there had been the requisite time put into truly finding out if you were inspired, then I guess that's what you've done in your life. You've evolved to the point that you're now doing things, creating the podcast and creating this book and things from this inspired place. And Jack that's where I'm trying to get to where, I'm not doing coaching because I think I want to be a coach, and I'm not creating group coaching because I think I want to have groups. It's because something in me knows, and I'm getting signs from so many different places in my vortex in my life that this is the right thing to be doing, Tom. This is you. This is a wonderful way for you to express yourself. And there's great joy here for you. And you're good at uplifting yourself. You can uplift others. You're good at soothing yourself. You can soothe others, go for this. And And even at that, I go at it in a way where I watch, like, is this still fun for me? I still like this, because in a certain way, I'm at the age in my life where I've sort of made a decision a while ago. Look, the rest of my life, I'm only doing stuff I want to do. That's it. I'm only doing stuff if it feels good,
Right.
and I don't want to be doing things out of the need. I need to have more money, and I need to have a relationship, and I need to live in a different house. It's like, I don't want to be feeling that craving. I want to be feeling, does this feel good? Does this feel good? Does this feel good?
That's it.
And then act from that place when I decide I'm going to finally take an action. Because like you, I've started enough programs where I end up, I lose the inspiration, or I find myself just spinning my wheels over and over again. It's just not really coming together. And it's just like, well, I'm not inspired. This doesn't turn me on,
Jack Canfield in The Secret had a line that I think really gets overlooked. I overlooked it. When I first saw it, I thought it was just kind of a throwaway line saying, well, this is how wonderful it is to be successful with The Secret. But that's not what it was at all. He was actually giving some very cogent advice. The thing that he said was, in his family, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I don't remember the exact phrase, in his family, they never do anything unless it feels good. That's always their top priority. And it just sounded like somebody who is, not to put too fine a point on it, it sounds like somebody who's bragging because he'd made it, and this is all, well, now I get just to do whatever I want to do. That wasn't it at all. He was saying, do this. Always limit yourself to only doing what feels good. Keep trying things. If A doesn't feel good, then move on to B. If B doesn't feel good, move on to C. And do it as quickly as possible until you find the things that you love to do. And then just do those and only do the things you love, because that's what makes the whole secret work. I didn't realize that's what he was saying, but that's what he was saying.
Yeah, and can you imagine, as you're creating a project, like as I'm creating this group coaching thing, that I'm looking every step of the way is, does this feel good? Does this feel good? Does this feel good? And any particular day, I'm doing the things, I'm following that lead of, does this feel like the next best feeling thing in creating this business? And we were listening to this one master creator. Her name's Gina Gabellini, she's got all kinds of programs out there and stuff, but she does things from the law of attraction. And so in the way that she explains creating your business, she talks about doing it always with that question in mind. Does this feel good? Does this feel good? Does this feel good? What do I really feel like doing today? And she said she literally got the inspiration one day to make this little, like a diary kind of thing for her clients. And it was this little book. But, she was in the midst of working on much bigger projects, creating massive, seminars that people were going to be able to plug into, and they were going to cost $2,000, and they were a big deal. But here she gets this inspiration to make this tiny little book. Well, she followed that. She followed it because it felt better than working on her great big project at that moment. She said, oh, I know I shouldn't be spending my time doing this, but this is what I feel like. I'm getting this inspiration. It's coming from my vortex. It's coming from source, this inspiration to make this little book. And it's a lot of fun to make it. So she made it. And I don't know exactly what it looks like or what all you do with it, but she ended up now, she sells cartons of those. She says it's just constantly, they're just selling them and selling them and selling them. But she said she knows why, because it came from that place of so much good feeling. And she was completely going against, in a way, her logic, which was saying you shouldn't be spending your time doing this. And she was giving that as an example that when you're creating a big business or a project, that's really the thing that you always want to be following is this the next best feeling thing that's showing up in my field of vision and my consciousness? Is this, when I get up in the morning, what do I feel inspired to do today about my business? Not what's the next thing on my to-do list.
I've talked in the past about the Sudbury model of education and how my wife and I helped to open an alternative school based on that model. One of the things that I think is probably the biggest thing, the best thing about that model of school is something that doesn't just apply to students, it applies to everybody. And that is when a Sudbury student tries things out, they try them out quickly. They'll try thing A and they'll give it a couple days, maybe they'll give it a couple hours, maybe they'll give it a couple minutes. And say, nope, I don't like that. And they'll go on to thing B. And then they'll go on to activity C. And then they'll try event D and activity E. And they'll just keep going along until they find something that, oh, wow, this is great. I want to start doing this right now. And then they'll start doing that right now. And they'll do that until it either turns into something or they find out it wasn't really a true inspiration at all and they kind of lost interest. The point is, you want to try things quickly. You want to move through things quickly until you find what really, really catches you because you know it. You know it inside. It's not something that you have to look hard for. It comes to you really clearly that, wow, I like this. I get a charge out of this. I get a good feeling out of this. I get a feeling that feels really good, and I want to have it again. Anytime that you're getting that, now you know what to stop and work on some more. But don't stop and work on something until you get that feeling. That's critically important. I am appreciating that now more than ever through this book project.
That's great.
Yeah.
I did that with dating. It's like I felt like, because I was feeling like rather than linger, once I feel like I know that somebody's not going to be someone that I'm going to really want to be with, I would just, meet another woman and another woman and another woman for coffee, for tea, and just in a sense go through women kind of quickly because if I knew really early on, and a lot of times I would be on the receiving end of that, where somebody would meet with me and I would think, oh, she's great, I want to see her again. And then she'd contact me and say, okay, that was wonderful, thank you, I won't be seeing you anymore. And be like, oh, okay, well, she's doing to me what I'm doing to these other women, which is I'm sort of sifting and sorting. And Abraham said, this is just natural. This is what dating is. It's sifting and sorting. And the same way when you're looking to create some project, it just, if you've taken months and months to arrive at some idea, but that getting it to that place didn't really feel good, and it really wasn't an idea that really had all this juice to it, then it's better to move on to where is your juice. You got to find where your juice is, and it won't always follow your logic. It won't always follow that trajectory that so many people are teaching in the world of project creation, which is what we're teaching is how to use your time effectively, how to make, your list of things to do, how to put it all on a calendar, how to follow exactly what you've laid out, how to force yourself into, how to motivate yourself to do it even when you don't feel like doing it. Right? There's so much of that out there that's being taught.
Is. Yeah.
In fact,
it's really misguided.
What I saw. Pardon?
It's really misguided. It's incredibly misguided.
I think you should be a master teacher of the opposite. It sounds like you really have that figured out.
I finally do, yeah. Because I used to do it the other way, the kind you just described, and I know for a fact that it doesn't work. And the thing that's really interesting to me about it is it proposes to take whatever it is that you're doing and turn it into a methodical, step-by-step thing. And the funny thing is, when you get an inspiration, you don't have to worry about how am I going to turn this into a methodical step-by-step thing. It just does. It does it for you. You all you just do is keep going. It takes care of the whole thing for you. You don't have to worry about that. So really, that's the last thing you need to think about, which means never. You don't ever think about it. You don't worry about that. Now, should you not do anything methodically? No, of course. You do things methodically, but you don't have to plan it. You don't have to go out of your way to figure out, well, okay, I'm going to have to take step A followed by step B. Let's see, what would step C be? You don't have to figure all that stuff out. If you're inspired by something, it's just going to come to you so quickly you won't even have to.
Stuff's just going to flood into your life, right?
Geez, it's not even close.
Or you're going to, or it was another friend of mine says, follow the breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
That you'll get little inclinations here and another little inclination there, and that'll lead you to the next breadcrumb and the next breadcrumb, and before you know it, you made it to where your destination is. But that's really different than just doing that all by logic and putting it all on a giant timeline and setting that timeline up in your office and 2,000 Post-it notes about how you're going to motivate yourself and what you're going to do at this precise time and this exact time. To me, when I've tried to accomplish projects that way, it just becomes nothing but this horrible feeling in my body of just completely in my mind, I'm just using my logic to assuming that if I logically do these things in this order, it's all just going to be wonderful and it'll be done.
Yep. Well, you and I are going to get the opportunity to experience it again because this Friday is the launch. So, Tom, when I talk with you next, we're going to be in the middle of the launch of the book. That's something to look forward to.
Actually, we're talking tomorrow morning, aren't we?
Oh, that's right. You're sitting in for Cindy tomorrow. That's right.
Yeah, I think so.
Cindy's not doing it this week. So, yeah, that's right. We're talking tomorrow. So we'll have one more time before we do the launch on Friday. So, Tom, I'm looking forward to it. Let's do it then.
Me too.
All right, we hope that you join us as well next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.